How does this call happen? He just calls you out the blue? What?
Well, number one,
beef. You got
we come out with Yo Bummers the Show in 1987. We a crew. We ain't from the city, and we in car culture. I mean, You're Gonna Get Yours is the first single released, I guess. And I give my love to my '98 Oldsmobile. Really, I ain't had a '98 Oldsmobile because the '88. Yeah, the '98 posse. Those were the kind of like thugs in Long Island. I mean, but they all drove '98s, Oldsmobile '98s. Right. The crazy thing about them is everybody used to come out to Roosevelt, which they call the Harlem of Long Island, right? Yeah. And they had the Roosevelt roller rink. And cats used to come from Queens and Brooklyn. And the '98 posse was from Hempstead, Roosevelt, New York.
Wine Dance?
Nah, that's further out.
Okay, fine.
Now that spot's another level.
Okay.
Right? But the '98 posse, man, they were so unique that they would put their cars together. They were all mechanics. They would rob you. They would you don't want to get on the wrong side of them. Matter of fact, our
mechanics that would rob you.
Yo, listen, our gigs had standoffs between the '98 posse and the S1Ws, who was in security. And then finally they came together, saying that anybody that come to our gigs, you better not fuck up because
it was almost a war with them one night in Hempstead, New York, at Korean Ballroom.
Yeah. Well, anyway. They ended up being together. Like, you didn't want to mess up one of our events because, you come out there, mess up our event, there ain't nothing happening out there. It ain't like, we ain't got things like Queens and Brooklyn. You mess up an event out there, it's a problem. So they even got together, the Super Thugs and also the S1Ws. So you came out there, it was an unbelievable experience. Right. Long story short, 98 Posse, they would put their cars together. They would cut off the highways so you couldn't get up out of there.
Oh, wow.
And they, so they were pretty much a theme. So Bum Rush the Show was our first album, and it operated around something similar, in Los Angeles. I mean, you ain't catching a bus out there. You ain't got no car, man, especially you in Carson or Torrance or them outskirt places.
Carson City, yeah?
Man, you ain't getting nowhere. Right. So they understood. There was similarities, and us and Ice-T, who's out there. Matter of fact, he was a friend. Big up to my bro, Ice-T. Yeah. Because every year, Ice-T makes history. You know why? Because he's the eldest, and he gets in those rare air. So Ice-T, when he turns of age, like 64, 65, I think 65, he's like, man, no rapper ever been there. And then 10 years later, they say, oh, so-and-so turned 60. Like, Ice-T did that shit 10, 15 years ago.
He's still pioneering.
Yeah, exactly. And doing heavy metal rap and rapping. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And doing...
And he's such a great person, man.
And doing TV 25 years and all.
Ice-T has never told me no. Like, I stopped asking him shit for shit, because I'm like...
People always try and help.
He's going to tell me no, and then I'm like,
he's the Kiss the Ring godfather for real.
Yeah.
So NWA, when they came out their first record, they did what Wu-Tang did 11 years later. They had a whole bunch of cats out there rhyming, little crews, and they grouped them all together. If you look at NWA and the Posse, they wear clocks on the back of the dock.
Yep. I have the Fila Fresh Crew.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah. They wearing clocks.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God, I was nowadays year old.
At the end of '87, we started doing, shows, and they start saying, oh, NWA, because they had Dope Man and stuff like that. Cube.
Easy had already come out.
Easy already came out.
Right.
DOC was from Texas, but he was part of a crew out in Texas. And Macola Records was an independent record label. And actually, it was a record label from a pressing plant they had in L.A. Just kind of took all the rappers at that particular time, and in that time of '87, grouped them together, and that was NWA. Niggas with attitude, but it meant a lot of crews.
Arabian Prince was down with them.
Arabian Prince, all the founders, Lonzo and all those cats, man. And they had their scene out there, and this was put in together. And then we toured a couple of times, and that's when I first started, knowing Dre, knowing Cube, who basically looked up to me and said, well, I got my style off of you. And I was like, well, I got this style off of Schoolie D. And then I talked to Schoolie D. Pick up to Schoolie D, my bro.
Philly, Schoolie D, right?
Yeah, Schoolie D.
Philly legend.
Yeah, man. So and I told him, well, I got that style off of Schoolie, man, in '86. And Schoolie's like, I got that shit off of Mel.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
That's dope
So we a fraternity.
Right.
And although, like even after us in the 90s and the 2000s, people don't think that there's lineage.
Yeah.
So Cube, at that particular time was like, bro, they coming up, NWA, and then we come on with Takes a Nation of Millions. And this is funny. We play in Vegas, and NWA's on the show. And, I get the test pressing from Glenn Friedman, who actually is the photographer who did the Nation's cover, bum us the show, Ice-T. Matter of fact, the first time I met Ice-T in L.A., he looked just like Ron Pay's cover. Except for Darlene wasn't in that cover. So it was him, Evil, and Africa Islam pulled up in that Porsche. It was like, yo, I'm going to give you the rules when you come out to L.A. And there's stuff like that. But Glenn Friedman was the photographer. And so he was there in L.A., in Las Vegas when we played, and he had the Takes a Nation album. And I'm getting the test pressing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what the fuck is, because we're in the art direction down to the T.
Right.
Glenn's a little anal, because he'd be like, the drop shadow ain't right. And Glenn be trying to get a royalty off the artwork. I'm like,
by giving you a little.
Wait. Glenn would take a photo, and he tried to go to Def Jam and say, I want a royalty off of my photo. They was like, nah, that's unprecedented. I don't know what we could do. But he tried.
Shout out for him for trying.
He tried, right? Like they say, if you don't ask for nothing, you don't know if you're ever gonna get it. So I remember Easy and Dre also being in the wings. And I handed it to them, and they were looking at this shit like, what the fuck?
Did you say Easy
and
Dr. Dre?
Yeah, Easy and Dre. We're in the same corridor. Wow. Matter of fact, Mike Tyson was in that same corridor, because I think LL was getting down. And also Jalil from Houdini.
Wow.
And here's a funny thing, right? Jalil, man, big up to Jalil from Houdini. And also those are my master teachers too. So Mike, this is Mike Tyson, 1988.
Okay.
Jalil, right? And Jalil is like,
He don't want to correct him.
Right, he tells everybody else, my name is Jalil. He wasn't telling Mike shit.
He didn't say nothing.
Jalil, and Jalil was like, you
can't correct Mike.
That's the same.
54, 4 nights in a row, and Mike Tyson hung out with us.
God damn it.
So that same corridor, I'm passing that Easy and Dre. And then, of course, Cube's bro coming up on that. They've developed, and the next thing, boom, next year, Straight Outta Compton, which was more like, like that East Coast fast speed muscle. And Dre was a 1-man, 2-man operation in there, where he could do all the shit that Hank, myself, Eric Vietnam Sadler, Keith, we all in a room, doing some shit. There's one dude that do this shit with an engineer. And Straight Outta Compton. So NWA comes up, does their thing. Then again, like I said, with groups, you got issues, you got schedules, you got conflicts, and Cube wanted to do a solo record and said that, Easy and Dre told him to wait maybe a year or two. And back in them days, man, a year or two.
Years, 10 years.
Yeah, like man. It's Rip Van Winkle, man. I'm saying? So Cube decided to, do it with us. And it is a key statement right here. In 1989, NWA played the Apollo. I was there that night.
Okay. Sold out?
Yo, man, New York roasted them.